capturing dramatic photos like these isn't as complicated as you might think it is. With the right gear and the right techniques, you can capture these dramatic photos pretty much anywhere. Photography is all about capturing light, so the more control you've got over your light, the more control you've got over your photos. In this video, I'm going to show you how easy it is to capture these dramatic photos yourself pretty much anywhere. Okay, hello you beautiful humans, it is Gemlane here and welcome to my cooking show. It sort of looks like that with my setup, doesn't it? All right, so for dramatic photography, let's cover the gear that you're going to need to be able to take these beautiful shots. So of course, you are going to need a camera. Now, it doesn't really matter what camera you're using. It could either be full frame or APS-C or Micro Four Thirds, whatever it is, as long as you can take photos in RAW. This is so you can get the most dynamic range out of your shot, which is really important with these types of photos. Now, with lenses, you want to avoid your wide angle lenses. They're not really suitable for dramatic photography. I found that the sweet spot starts at 50mm and goes from there. I normally use a 24 to 70mm lens at the end at 70mm because that gives me that flexibility of going a little bit wider if I need to. Say I'm in a tight space and I don't have as much room to play with to be able to use a zoom lens at 70mm. You could also look at 85 or 135 or even a 70 to 200. By having a longer focal distance on your lens, it gives you really nice compression on your subject. The next bit of kit you're going to need is an off-camera flash. This one here is the Godox AD200 Pro. This is a fantastic off-camera flash. It has the different attachments for the bare bulb and also for your strobe. This one has the mag mod attachment on there, but they just interchange. I like using the bare bulb option with dramatic photography. It gives a nicer, cleaner image and more control over that light, which I like using. Now, in order to use your off-camera flash, you are going to need a trigger. This is what sends the signal from the camera to the off-camera flash to let it know, hey, you're taking a photo. I better, do the strobe thing. So this sits in your hot shoe mount on your camera. They're pretty inexpensive. There are different ones. Just make sure you get the one that is designed for your camera because hot shoe mounts do differ between different manufacturers. So that is a really good hot tip for you if you are buying one of these. You can get them off Amazon, eBay, whatever you need. Just make sure it syncs up with your flash. Now you're going to want to diffuse that light that is coming from your off-camera flash, and that's where you can use a softbox. Now they do come in lots of different shapes and sizes. This one here is an 86cm one, which I love using when I'm out on location. But this one here is also a 60cm one. So if I wanted something that was just quick, nimble and easy to set up, then I would use something like this. The main thing that you want to make sure with your softbox is that it has a honeycomb grid on there, because that is what helps to give you that dramatic lighting and shadows in your shots. Now, depending on what type of flash and softbox you're using, you may need to grab yourself one of these, which is a Bowens mount. This is so you can attach the softbox to the flash. They all come in lots of different shapes and sizes and different mounts, but the most common one is Bowens. So if you do need to grab a converter, you can jump on Amazon or eBay. They're pretty inexpensive. And of course, you are going to need a light stand so you can set up your flash and your softbox away from your subject, because it will be off camera, remember. Do make sure you do get a good quality sturdy one. You may need to get some sandbags just to weight it down, because the last thing you want is your flash and your softbox falling on someone. That would be horrible. All right, and the last little bit of kit that you might need is one of these. Look, not the reflection, but the black side. These are really good for absorbing light and controlling the light to avoid light leak from other sources. If you don't have a reflector, as in the 5-in-1, you can also use black card. It will do the same thing. I don't always use one of these. If I'm doing a run and gun shoot and time is of the essence, I will just quickly set up the subject, move the light into position, take the shot, and then just move on. So you don't always need one of these, but it is handy to have in your kit. So now you've got your equipment, let's have a look at the ideal location for taking your dramatic photos. Now, ideally, the darker the location, the better your shots are going to be. But this isn't always the case, especially if you're on location at a bar or a restaurant. What it really comes down to is having control over your light, and that's where having a flash will help you achieve these shots. Now, obviously, if you are outside in direct sunlight and the sun is blaring down on you and it is midday, then of course, you're not going to be able to take these shots. It's just not the right situation. But what we've got here is pretty similar if we were out on a location doing a shoot at a restaurant or a bar. There's a little bit of natural light coming through, and I've also got this great big video light set up so you can see my face, but also so you can see what we're doing today. All right, so let's set up our subject to take a photo today. Now, I thought I would use a very special bottle of scotch for the example today. I am saving it for a special occasion because it was given to me. So with this particular shot, I thought it would look really good with the glass next to it. So I've supplemented the liquid with something else, but let's not tell anyone. All right, so I've picked this location here because it will look really good on an angle coming from this direction. We'll get that nice depth of field behind it. Not that we've got a lot of space in this room, but it will be really good for that light fall off. So our light will be right here on our subject. So now we've got the subject set up. This is the most important part, where we position our light source. Now, ideally from our subject, we're wanting it set up between a 45 and 90 degree angle to your subject. Now, this isn't a hard and fast rule. You can play around with this. In some situations, it looks really good being backlit, but we don't have the flexibility in this space because we are in a small studio. So if I did have the space to do it and I did want to backlight it, what I could do is set up the light source from this direction heading that way. And what it would do is give a really nice glow to the bottle. Now, because I'm going to take the photo from this direction, let's move the light source into position. So that should be good. We'll play around with this. So that is between that 45 degree and 90 degree angle to the subject. Now, we also have it angled down, so it is giving that motivated light to the subject. All right, so now we've got our subject set up and our composition sorted, and the light source is all set up, ready to go. We need to look at the settings in your camera. And there are two settings we need to make sure are enabled before you take your photo. The first one is make sure you're shooting in RAW, and the second is shoot in manual mode, because we are going to take full control over these photos. Now, the secret sauce to taking these shots pretty much anywhere is having a fast shutter speed. So the fastest we can go when using a flash is 250th of a second. So make sure you set that, and then we change the other variables of the exposure accordingly. Now, I pretty much shoot at ISO 200 for some strange reason. That's a figure that I've always used and worked with as a base. So I've set my ISO to 200, and I'm going to set my aperture at f5.6. That way we get the bottle nice and crisp and in focus, as well as the glass that is with it, and it will give us that fall off with the depth of field on the shot. Now, because we are using a flash, the last variable that we've got to play with for our exposure is the power output coming out of our flash. With the trigger set to manual, you will be able to control the power output going to the flash without having to get up and changing it every time you change the power output. Now, in this situation, because we are using a smaller light box, which is quite close to our subject, it means that we don't need as much power coming out of it. But if I was using a really big softbox and there was more distance between the subject and the light source, then I would need to pump up that power. But in this situation, I'm probably going to start off at 132 power and we'll go from there. All right, so now we've got everything set up, ready to go for our shot. Let's take some dramatic photos. Now, I have moved the video light around so it is more on me and less on our subject, but let's take some photos. Okay, so it's just making sure I was happy with the composition there. And look, that looks really good. Whenever I take a photo, I always zoom in just to make sure everything's in focus and looking good. That label is looking nice and crisp, but I can see what we can do to improve this shot. And that is by moving our light source. So I'm just gonna swing it around so it is more of that 90 degrees. I'm probably gonna go about 80 degrees actually. Reason being is that we're getting a fair bit of light on our back wall there, when we're wanting our subject to be lit perfectly without that light leaking onto our background. So let's get back into position. Let's take a moment. So I'm happy with the composition, and there we go. And look at that. Look at that light fall off on the label. I'm really happy with that. We're getting less light leaking onto the background. Even the table lit perfectly. Love the bottle and the glass, and I'm really happy with that. And I think we've nailed it with the settings as well. I'm just going to show you what it looks like, just a little bit less power. So we're at 164 now. And yeah, you can see the difference there. I think the sweet spot is that 132 that we did take it in. So that is how easy it is. So you can see why taking dramatic photos is a lot of fun. It really gives you an opportunity to stretch your creative muscles by trying different techniques. And it really is a dynamic photo that just stands out. I really enjoy taking these types of photos, and I hope you have learned from this video as well, so you can go out and take dramatic photos yourself. If you have enjoyed this video and learned from it, would love to hear from you. Let me know in the comments section below. And while you're there, don't forget to give that subscribe button. Just a little bit of a tickle. I promise it won't hurt. My name is Jem Lang, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.